I'll give that a try. Alright. I am still sick. It is day 6 of Vlogmas, and I just had a miserable, stressful day. In alchemy, the Grado is the first step in creating the Philosopher's Stone. Its name means the blackness or the darkness. In psychology, Carl Jung used the term as well to refer to the dark night of the soul. In psychology, this is where, Jungian psychology, where the self is destroyed, brought down to its lowest point, where it can be rebuilt stronger, better, more perfect from its foundations. On an unrelated note, I read 2 comic books today, and I was feeling pretty good about Vertigo. And then I read 2 comic books today. So far in the Vertigo, there were a couple titles I thought the writing was a little weak or not very good, but generally I'm great with the art. Art's fantastic. Well, let's not go fantastic, but it's pretty good. And the writing, it's all over the place, but generally good. So, new Vertigo, with between the Neil Gaiman Sandman Extended Universe, which I think has 4 or 5 titles, and I want to say 6 titles for regular Vertigo, the new Vertigo, these new titles. And the one I had really high hopes about was the Books of Magic. This is going to be a longer review, despite the fact that I feel like crap. The Books of Magic, let's go through this. This is a title from, I want to say 93, 90, somewhere around there. It's an old-ass title. I think 93. In fact, I'm pretty sure 93. And the premise is meta, going back a bit. Neil Gaiman and other authors like him, what's her name? K. Rowling's, Harry Potter lady, were inspired by magical boys in fiction. There's a particular one, I don't know the name of it, that kind of inspired them. Rowling's eventually makes Harry Potter. Neil Gaiman makes a character named Timothy Hunter, and this is the protagonist and main character in the Books of Magic back from the 90s. So, I'm reading this book and I'm a little leery about it, because I really liked Books of Magic. It was one of the more endearing titles. Timothy Hunter, the character, was often portrayed as being normal, but also very clever, very sweet person who wants to do good. A very relatable character. Is often in over his head, and is like a little kid. Not a little kid, but a kid, but being confronted with things that are beyond his comprehension, or that are horrifying, or that want to eat or kill him, or curse him, or something. So, and it's like Harry Potter, only way darker and kind of more sinister. And he has the look very much of Harry Potter. He has the perfectly round glasses. I think he was supposed to be like 11 or 12, no more than 13, in the original comic. Which got me to thinking immediately, like, how old would he be in 2018? And my thought was somewhere in his 40s. Like 42 about is where I came up with. And the Books of Magic, the 2018 series, number 1, which is what I'm reviewing. 2018 Books of Magic, number 1. He mentions a fidget spinner, and he's still a kid, and the impression I'm getting is that the events from the limited series where this character first appears, those just happened. Those just happened to him. This is like the next day or week or something like that. Like, not very long after it. So, I guess this is a reboot where instead of taking place in the 90s, we've just ignored the entire past, the entire Books of Magic, the 2nd volume, the other series, Arcanum, that came later, all that, all gone, gone. Which, for those of you reading Vertigo titles for nostalgia, or at least partially from nostalgia, like myself, This is very disappointing, because you're rehashing the thing and redoing it. But that's not always a bad thing. That can be done well. And, you know, if you're retelling the original story, but you have the insights and the evolution of writing up to this point in storytelling. Marvel movies have happened, action has happened, more subtle horror fantasy has happened. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happened. Elements that you might incorporate into a story like the Books of Magic. So maybe this will be a good thing. Maybe it'll be a well-written retelling, reimagining of the Books of Magic for the 21st century. It is not. It, honestly, in my head, all I can think of is an old series from, I guess it was the 90s, The Critic, with Lovitz as the voice actor in this cartoon. And his kind of signature line was, "It stinks." He was a movie critic. And it really stinks. This is, I hated this issue. I really hated it. Like, I was going through it, and it's like, one, the art isn't very good. Like, I can't really tell what's supposed to be happening in some places. Like, in some cases, I can't tell if Timothy Hunter is supposed to be a boy or just an incredibly short man, like a ridiculously short person. Like, the scale is bad. The art is not very good at all. It looks clumsily and poorly written. And it is a complete beat-for-beat rehashing of the original Books of Magic story, only greatly compressed, all the cool stuff removed, all of the interesting characters gone. Molly, I haven't even seen this character yet. And it's kind of stretched out, and I have to say this, like, I think the Japanese name for Timothy Hunter will be Always Scowling Boy, because he is always unhappy. Like, there's nothing relatable or likable about the character portrayed in this new series. He's just always got this, like he's upset non-stop. And it might be, the art might be one thing informing that, the weak writing, so I'm kind of relying on the art, which isn't very good. It's just, it had very little to like about it. And one of his teachers is Rose, and I'm getting the impression, is this Dr. Occult's alter ego? That would be pretty weird, because he knows who Rose is. He met her, or at least he did in the original Books of Magic. The original, I think it was a 4-part miniseries, where we're introduced to the character. And so it's either we assume the original 4-part series happened in some changed form, but we aren't told. So we're just getting a very swift, sloppy rehash of the original story, a weaker version of it, with no cool elements added. In the original series, at one point, Timothy Hunter, because it's the 90s, he has a yo-yo. He has a toy yo-yo. And one of his first magical acts is to turn the yo-yo into an owl, who, because it was a yo-yo, is named Yo-Yo. And in this story, we wasted valuable page space explaining why Harry Potter, a kid from the 21st century, even has a yo-yo. That's where the fidget spinner kind of comes in. And it's like, I didn't need an explanation about why a kid has a yo-yo. He might just have a yo-yo. Fuck, I hate this story. It's... everything that was complicated and nuanced in the original is just gone. It's just Timothy Hunter being angry he isn't given magic immediately. It's a weak version of the original. In the original story, his dad is one arm. Was left by his wife, Timothy's mother, and he's just a depressed, broken shell of a man, which is built up over issues and issues. Like, we understand that this guy has kind of given up, and he's depressing for Timothy to be around. And in this one, he's just thrown in as this lump of shit character who's just unlikable, because we're crushing all of that character development into like 2 pages. So he's just presented as an unlikable, sad sack of shit I don't care about. And like, so this went from the title I had the greatest aspirations for, because this was the one of the more fun but also more human of the Vertigo titles. Definitely. It was like a kid's fairy tale for adults that had very humanistic elements but very fantastical elements. It was a great comic. And this looks bad. It just looks bad. It's not entertaining, and I don't like it. I am going to get, in fact, I think I've already purchased the second issue. I am giving this one more chance. And maybe I'm going to come back with, holy crap, issue 2 was amazing. It was just amazing. Forget what I said about issue 1. Don't think that's very likely. So I don't recommend getting this. I don't recommend picking this comic book up. This is a title I loved back in the 90s. I hate it. I absolutely hate this version. I hate it to death. I am still dying of a cold. So that's what I had to say. I would say this was the worst comic book I've read all week, but I read 2 comic books today, and the other one somehow defeated this one. But we'll talk about that tomorrow when I do my review for Hex Wives. I'm pissed off enough. That's me, I'm out.